Because fanny in the
is a butt.
U.S. usually means your backside, your bum, okay?
Yeah.
Whereas here in the U.K., the fanny means the front side of a female.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be checking out some weird British words that mean something totally different in the United States. This is by Walter's World. I've done some reactions by his channel before. He's an American that travels around the globe, goes to different cities, different countries and stuff, and he provides his input on just different stuff like, 10 things not to do in this country, things not to do, etc., etc. It's been a while since I've actually checked out any of his videos, actually. I don't know why. They just really haven't popped up in my recommended section, I guess. But anyways, recommend the channel, does great stuff. There will be a link in the description section down below for the original video, like always. And we're going to find out. I do know that in Britain they say fag. In America they say cigarette, right? And there's different words and phrases that they use in Britain that doesn't really mean something different, but just phrases that we don't use here. Like they'll say like, oh, that's mental, right? Just meaning like that's crazy or that's absurd, or they'll say mate, how's it going, mate? Instead of like friend or guy or pal or whatever, right? So those words don't necessarily mean anything different. It's just expressions that we don't use as often here in America. But as far as words that mean something completely, totally different, I do know that the fag one is this thing, because they mean cigarette. Over here, it would just mean like a gay person. It's a derogatory term, actually. It's not nice. Like you don't call somebody that. But anyways, yeah, let's check it out and see what Walter's World, old Walter here, has to say about it. It looks like he's actually standing in Britain. That's definitely a British architecture, British, you can just tell that's Britain. I mean, if you look in here, you can see the British, the European license plates on the cars even. So, all right, yeah, let's get to it.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Walter's World, and today we're in York, England. And today we're going to talk
York.
about are some of the differences between U.S. English and British English. Because even though we speak the same language, sometimes we have no idea what the other person is saying, okay? And I want to kind of make this video to help U.S. travelers coming to England, Scotland, Wales, to kind of understand some of those language differences so they don't have any misunderstandings, but also for the British tourists that are heading to the U.S., that they don't have the same hiccups as well, okay? And as any good tourist, one of the big things people focus on is food. And there's a lot of food vocabulary differences you should know. And it really...
Yes. When they say chips, they're talking about our fries, like French fries, right? And when they say crisps, they're talking about our potato chips. Yes.
It starts with the basics. It starts with tea. When you're in the U.S., tea is a drink you drink. Here in England, a tea is a drink you drink as well. But when someone says it's time for tea or it's tea time, they're meaning it's dinner time. So tea is dinner. So if someone says, oh, there's this high tea thing, they're meaning it's dinner, okay? It's a meal, okay? So whenever you hear that, all right? Now, when you're having dinner, you're having tea, there's all kinds of different foods you're going to see on there. And one of the things I always love to make sure I have when I hear is my sticky toffee pudding, which is a pudding. And when people say pudding in the UK, they just mean dessert, okay? Whereas in the US, if you say pudding, what people think of is this gelatinous slime that's flavored in chocolate or vanilla, or like a custard kind of thing. So
butterscotch pudding is amazing. Yeah, so I didn't realize that. So the Pink Floyd song, something about you can't have your pudding. Ah, man, I'm drawing a blank. You know what I'm talking about if you've heard Pink Floyd. They were it just means dessert in general. That's something I never knew. And the tea time, never knew that. I've heard, hey, it's tea time. I didn't know they meant dinner or supper. We call it dinner or supper. Depends on who you are and where you're at. The United States is huge, different cultures and different differences, depending on where you are in the country and stuff. And even in the same area, just depending on the family unit, how they talked, how they grew up. Dinner's more proper, supper's more of like a slang for it. Yeah.
That could get people a little bit confused. Now, the next food that trips people up is the word biscuit, okay? So for my American friends, when you're here in the UK and someone says, oh, would you like a biscuit?
I think that means cracker, right? Is that no cookie? It's either cracker or cookie.
They're not talking about a big, fluffy biscuit you get from the South, like biscuits and gravy kind of stuff. A biscuit here in the UK is a cookie or a
Okay.
cracker. That's what you're going to have. So, my biscuit loving Brits, if you want something like that back in the US, if it's sweet, you want a cookie. If it's savory, you want a cracker. All right, so you don't have that misunderstanding.
Okay.
And if we're going to talk about tasty treats, I should mention the difference between sweets, lollies, candies. So if you hear sweets in the UK, they're talking about candies,
I've heard
okay?
that, yeah.
But if you hear the word lolly, usually when they talk about lollies, they're talking about ice lollies, which are popsicles. Now, another
Okay.
food word that people get tripped on is chips. So here
That makes sense. Well, we have some people call like a sucker a lollipop. So I wonder if lollies is specific to ice popsicles or it's just like suckers, like like a candy on a stick. And this one I know chips is fish. Or not fish. I was looking at the fish. Uh it's French fries.
in the UK, when someone orders chips, in the US, we would call that French fries, okay? But if you're in the US, if someone orders chips, they're ordering crisps here in the UK. And that's where things get kind of confusing.
Yep.
And for my British friends, when you go to the US, you're getting homesick and you want fish and chips, and you go to an English pub when you're abroad, and you're like, I'm gonna get the fish and chips when I'm there. Make sure you check to make sure that they make the chips French fries, because I've gone to places that were Irish pubs and English pubs in the US, and they had fish and chips, and yes, it was like fried haddock or fried cod, and then came with crisps on the side, not French fries, not chips. So that's one thing you might see some hiccups on.
That's interesting right there. How you gonna have a British pub that didn't even research into it to see that like they just heard the term fish and chips and just ran with it and served literal chips, which would be crisps over there. That's crazy. Like you would think that a British pub would at least get it right, but hey, there's a lot of dumb Americans here, guys.
And speaking of on, what about what you put on your French fries or on your chips? Well, here you have tomato sauce, okay? Whereas the US, we call it ketchup. Here it's called tomato sauce. But if
Wow. Okay, so here, yeah, ketchup, right? Tomato sauce is literally just it's what it sounds like. It's tomato sauce. It's unflavored. It's just pure tomato. Um, I guess it's been pulverized, whatever. Maybe it's been condensed down a little bit to where it's a lot thicker. You use it a lot of times in like chili base or like say you're making like spaghetti sauce. You would start with tomato sauce, um, maybe a little tomato paste. Actually, tomato paste is even more condensed. It's real thick. But tomato sauce is a little bit runnier. It's just a ground up tomato that I'm pretty sure that they suck some of the moisture out. But yeah, no, ketchup is seasoned. Yeah, that's interesting.
you're in the US and you tell someone you want tomato sauce for your French fries or your chips, they're probably going to think you want like a marinara sauce for your pasta. And if you put like a marinara sauce in somebody's French fries in the US, it won't go over well. They'll be kind of pissed when you're there. And that's another
I I I, I have to say though that I've never thought of marinara sauce on a French fry, but that actually sounds kind of good, doesn't it? With a little bit of basil on top and some oregano, a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Like that actually sounds good.
word that has different meanings. Because in the US, if you say somebody's pissed, it means they're mad, okay?
Yeah, but in the UK, pissed means hammered drunk. And look at that architecture. I know that's not the topic of the video, but man, that is just absolutely amazing looking. Like you don't see stuff like that around here. Well, I guess to be fair, I guess New Orleans has some similar architecture like that, but I think they would normally have balconies. It's more of a French style. New Orleans is was founded by the French, I think, or has a lot of French influence at least. A lot of French, ancestry and stuff comes from there. But yeah, that just looks amazing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure pissed in Britain means like I'm getting hammered drunk.
okay? But if you're here in England, if you say somebody's pissed, it means they're drunk.
Yep.
So that can be a kind of a big difference kind of one out there when thinking somebody's pissed. Oh, they're just drunk. Oh, they're pissed. They're mad. Yeah, so that can be a difference as well. I think it's important we mention that sometimes when we look at these words in British English versus American English, sometimes we have the same word. It just has a little bit different connotation to it. And I think pavement is a very good example of that.
Oh, yeah. They call it tarmac over in Britain. And I just recently realized that because I watch a channel called GeoWizard. I don't know if you've ever heard of the channel or not. Amazing channel. He does a lot of like cool GeoGuessr challenges. He does like missions, like straight line missions across countries, like where he'll try to travel in like a completely straight line. Very cool channel. But yeah, they call it tarmac.
So if you say walk on the pavement here in the UK, they're meaning like the sidewalk. They're meaning the stuff here. Whereas the US, we say, walk on the sidewalk. Whereas the
Okay, so pavement means sidewalk. So the road itself, I think, is what I was talking about. That I'm pretty sure they call tarmac instead of like what we would call asphalt here.
sidewalk is made out of pavement in general in the US, because people think the pavement, you mean the stuff like it could be asphalt, it could be cement or something. They don't really know. Whereas here, pavement just means sidewalk. Okay. And if you're going to be walking, another thing you might want to think about are your trainers. Okay, so trainers here in the UK are your tennis shoes, your sports shoes, okay? Whereas in the US, if you tell someone you have to go get your trainer or your trainers, I would say, they're like, wait, you have multiple people that help you work out at the gym? Because that's what trainers are in the US. They help you train and work out, okay? Now, if you got a trainer in the US, you're working out, you probably want to go look good in your pants, okay? The thing is, in the US, pants...
Trousers or, is it knickers? No, knickers is your underwear, right? Yeah, so trousers, which I guess now I can see that there's the TRO, but yeah.
Are like, jeans, trousers in the UK, all right? But in the UK, if you say pants, it means your underwear.
Really?
So you want to kind of be careful with that. And kind of going with the nether regions down there, I think another word you should know is fanny, because fanny in the US usually means your backside, your bum, okay?
Yeah.
Whereas here in the UK, the fanny means the front side of a female, all right? So there's a little bit of difference there when you think about that, because when you hear fanny pack in the US, it's that bum bag you'll see here in the UK, and that could get some people a little sticker here and there.
That's funny, because we have a thing here called a fanny pack, and it's just like a little thing. It's like a belt that has like a little pouch, like a pocket, right, with a zipper usually on it. I don't wear them, but a lot of times people take them. Like if, say you're filming, put your camera and all that stuff in your fanny pack. It's not as common now as it used to be, but like you see like people jogging, they wear a fanny pack so they can put their phone and like whatever in there. Tourists, a lot of times if they go somewhere, they'll put, wear a fanny pack, and it's just a little, so you're not having to wear a whole backpack, right? You can put your phone, put your whatever in it. I didn't know that meant the front side. That could lead to some confusion and some weird looks from people if you're talking about your butt, but yet they think you're talking about your front side. Wow.
There for that, all right? And another kind of word that kind of confuses people is when you have your car and you need to get something out of the boot. The boot of the car in the UK
trunk
is the back part. It's the trunk of the car, okay? Whereas in the US, we say trunk for the back of the car, because a boot is just something that you wear, okay? So a boot in the US, if you say that, all people think of are your wellies, which are your rain boots. And then the front of the car, we call it the hood in the US. That's called the bonnet in the UK. Now we're going to move on to some of the ones that might cause some hilarious confusion if you're making a TV show about Brits and Americans together.
Hilarious.
And one is...
Well, hold on. Sorry, Walter. What can be more confusing than fanny? I mean, that's funny. That's funny.
You ask somebody, hey, go knock up Jocelyn. Well, here in the UK, if you say
knock up, that means like go like knock on their door. Here, knock up means like to get somebody pregnant.
Go knock up, go knock up someone. It means you're gonna go knock on their door to wake them up. Okay.
Yeah, wake them up.
If you say to knock someone up in the US, it means you get them pregnant. Okay, so I can see a few laughs or two in terms of that in kind of comedy gold when you're living with a British person or an American. So continuing on with that knock up theme, I think it's important for us to talk about contraception or correction of math problems. What?
Yeah,
Well, let's think
what?
with
Hold on now, because contraception here is a preventative measure against getting pregnant, right? So maybe it's a rubber, a condom, or whatever, or a pill or something that you would take. Hold on. But yeah, yeah.
this way, a rubber. What's a rubber? If you're here in the UK, a rubber is the eraser, the rubber eraser on the back of your pencil to erase your mistakes.
Yeah, here a rubber means a condom. I don't have to explain that.
Whereas a rubber in the US, that's kind of a slang term for a condom, all right? So you want to be aware of that when you ask for a rubber from your host mom or your teacher when you're in the US as a study abroad student, because you might get a side eye. Excuse me? You need to go see the principal, young man.
Could you imagine that? British exchange student here in the United States ask his teacher, "Hey, mate, you got a rubber?" Yeah, she would totally think he's meaning something else and might actually get you to go to the principal's office. That's wow.
So do be aware of that. Because honestly, you don't want to have a souvenir of your trips abroad to the Britain or to the US and have to bring back a dummy. And a dummy, I'm not saying an idiot. No. A dummy in the UK is a pacifier for a baby.
Oh, I thought they would say tire, but then what he was saying about it didn't make sense. Yeah, I've heard people say like a spare tire on a car. I've heard them referred to as a dummy tire. So pacifier, okay. Well, I've heard it called a passy, and I think maybe they call it that on Peppa Pig. My son watches Peppa Pig. He's actually watching it right now as we speak. Peppa Pig's Clubhouse.
Because those babies do grow up and they might go to public school. And the thing is, in the UK, a public school is actually a school you pay for. Whereas in the US, a public school is the free school you get for living in a city. You see how these things get really...
Hold on, what?
In the UK, a public school is actually a school you pay for.
A public school is one you pay for. So public school in Britain would mean a private school? That one is confusing. Because here it's like the free public school. Well, maybe not so free, but there's fees. They charge you a little bit. But it's not like a high price private school. It's public. It's open to the public, all the kids in the school district.
Whereas in the US, a public school is the free school you get for living in a city.
Yeah.
You see how these things get really complicated, and you know, if you're walking around the US, you might notice it might seem like they don't like solicitors in the US, because you'll see sign at people's houses that say no solicitors. Solicitors do not knock.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, a solicitor here in the UK is a lawyer in the US or an attorney. So you can see how that could be kind of
Really?
weird, because solicitors in the US are people that come to your door, knock on your door, and try to sell you something, or trying to get you to give money. Because the thing is, some places you have to have a permit in the US to go knock on people's door to ask.
Yeah, actually, I did a door-to-door magazine salesman thing, and I would go to like a different city I only did it for 6 weeks, but like every week we'd be in a different big city, and we would go around and knock on doors and try to sell magazines. This was years back. It turned out to be a scam. I think I was working for a criminal, unbeknownst to me at the time. I didn't realize until after I got out of it. I started researching, and everything like that. But anyways, we never had permits. I didn't even know we didn't have permits or anything, you know. But every now and then the cops would get called because we're going door to door to door, in these neighborhoods trying to sell magazines, and the cops would show up and be like, "Hey, do you have a permit?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I would assume my boss does, And I try to give give them the contact information. Turns out there was no permit, so the cop would be like, "All right, well, I'm gonna take you to another township." So he would take me. It happened like maybe 3 times before I ended up leaving the magazine crew. And he would just take me and drop me off in a different township outside of his jurisdiction and be like, "All right, well, don't go back to that township. You don't have a permit for it." And then I would just call the guy to come pick me up and be like, "Hey, I can't do this. They won't let me." So yeah, solicitor, that's definitely not something that people like around here. You see signs all the time, no soliciting, no soliciting, And even at gas stations, sometimes you'll see door signs on the door that says no soliciting, because sometimes people stand outside gas stations, because you got multiple people coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and they'll stand there and they'll try to do like, fun, like, when kids have fundraisers at their school or whatever, right? And they'll stand there and they'll try to like sell the fundraiser items out of the magazine, whatever it is, and it's not liked.
ask for money or to sell stuff, because then if you don't, then you might have the police or the cops come and talk to you. And if you're wondering what police are called here in the UK, like
Bobbies.
a policeman is called a constable here in the UK, or if you look for the cop word, a cop would be more of a bobby. You don't hear that one as often, but just think constable for the police officers. And since I am a Yankee, if I'm here in the UK, which is
A Yankee, that actually is a term that was coined for the Dutch people, because a lot of Dutch people was like common names were Jan and Kees. In Dutch, what we have as a J is pronounced like a Y, right? But so Jan and Kees, which is Kees, because two E's makes the A sound in Dutch. Back when New York was actually New Amsterdam, it was founded by the Dutch people and stuff before Britain took over it and renamed it New York, And it was a term coined for the Dutch people. They just put it together and like, oh, you're a Yankee. Yeah, now it just means somebody from America. But in the same sense, it also means within the United States, I think a Yankee is more of a northerner, because like back in the Civil War era, when you had the North against the South would call the people in the North Yankees. Like people down in Texas and stuff like that would, like somebody comes down from New York and they're like, oh, you're just a Yankee. And then you have like the sports team, the baseball team, New York Yankees.
It's funny because Yankee in the UK means pretty much a Yank, anybody from the US.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the US, you call someone a Yankee, they're either from the North in the Civil War versus the South, or they're from New England. We're talking like Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, that very northeast corner of the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, let's get back to some of the food things. Now, when you come around England, you go to the fun fairs around, you're going to see candy floss. And no, it's not candy you use as dental floss in the U.S. Candy floss is called cotton candy in the U.S.
Oh.
And the word floss in the U.S. is dental floss. You use that to actually clean your teeth when you're in the U.S.
Yeah.
Some more food things I think you need to know is you might see a word called a banger. Okay,
Sausage.
So banger is just a sausage. Banger in the UK, sausage in the US, you have that.
Yeah, they say bangers and mash. That's sausage and mashed potatoes. Hey, let me finish my video. Okay, keep on a second. I'll be done soon. Go.
If you ever see a butty is a sandwich. Here, like your buddy, what's a butty? Like a butt with a Y? I don't understand what that is. That's just kind of a sandwich here in the UK. You might see rasher. A rasher is just bacon, okay, in the US, and it's a rasher here in the UK. And one of the ones I know that kind of threw me off the first time I traveled abroad is the first time I heard the word queue. And the thing is, if
queue means to wait in line.
If you're in the UK, a queue is just a line that people stand in.
Yeah.
And just like in the US, queue jumping or line skipping or skipping the line or jumping the line is not cool either place you are in the US or UK. So do be aware of that, because people will call you out. And they might call you out by calling you a Muppet. Now, the thing is if you're from the US, a Muppet is like Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Whereas a Muppet here in the UK means like idiot. Now, if you're going to be driving around England, which I highly recommend because it's very easy to do when you're not in London at least, you're going to look for a petrol station, because petrol is what they call gas or gasoline, because in the U.S. we call it a gas station, and the gas is short for gasoline, and the gasoline you put in your car in the U.S., the gasoline you put in your car here in the U.K. is called petrol, okay? The thing is, though, if you call something gas here in the UK, they're usually talking about natural gas. So like you heat your house with gas, or you have a gas stove. Another thing that throws off tourists when they come here is they'll notice when you go to like your inns or your hotels or the buildings, they'll say, oh, it's up on the first floor. You're like, it's up on the first floor, but here's the thing.
Oh, is the first floor meaning the top floor? Like they got it backwards. Like our first floor is ground level, right? And then you go up one, second floor, up one, third, etc.
Here in England and here in the UK, the ground floor is called the ground floor. The first floor up is called the first floor. The second floor up is called the second floor. Whereas the US, the ground floor is called the first floor.
Yeah.
And then the first floor above ground is called the second floor. So it's like one off. So sometimes when you rent your B&Bs or your bed and breakfasts or Airbnbs, these inns, like, oh yeah, you're on the third floor. You're like, oh, third floor, I can do that. It's like, wait, no. Third floor UK means fourth floor US. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of steps. So
It's just one more set of stairs, Walter. All right, sorry about that.
do be aware of that. And if you are at your hotel and you run out of toilet paper or TP, you might hear it called a bog roll here in the UK, because bog is a kind of a slang word for the toilet. Now, oddly enough, the word I probably should have started this video off with is actually the word holiday, because I'm here on holiday in the UK. Okay, so for Brits, if you say you're going on holiday, it means you're going on vacation in the US, okay? Whereas if you say it's the holidays or it's a holiday in the US or I have a holiday, it doesn't mean you have a vacation in the US. It specifically means holidays like Christmas, Easter, 4th of July. Those are holidays. When I go on a trip to relax, that's a vacation in the US. And when I go on holidays, I might want to snog my wife. And the thing is,
Snog? Is that what I think it is? He's the way he used it. He's like, I want to snog my wife. Okay, I think I know what that is.
snogging in the UK just means you're making out, you're kissing people a lot.
Oh,
You know,
not as bad. I thought it meant like intercourse, just straight up having sex. So just making out. So just the tongue dance.
the US, you say snog. It has almost like a pig-like connotation, so it's not really good. It just means people are like kissing a lot. I'm sure Jocelyn's like, yes, that's just how you kiss, Mark. But yeah, so that's one thing you might want to think about if things go well or not. I don't know. However you like to travel. And the thing is, you might not be able to travel because you're skint. Okay, if you hear somebody is skint here in the UK means broke in the US. Just means you don't have any money.
Well, I'm scant. Hit like, hit subscribe, drop a comment. It helps the video soar into the YouTube algorithm, and it doesn't cost you anything. Even if you're skint, you can afford it.
So if you're broke or skint when you're here in the UK, you probably can't afford to go to the footy or the football match, okay? So footy or football is what we call in the US soccer, all right? And then in the US, if you say football, they're talking about American football, okay? And if you come here to the UK, no one's going to know you're Chicago Bears, you're Dallas Cowboys. They might have heard about them, but it's not really a thing here at all, even though they have games occasionally in London. Yeah, American football, not a thing here. It's all about the footy. It's all about football here.
I'm not into American football either.
And I would be wrong to talk about English football without mentioning this very important word, and that is gutted. And you might hear this every time England goes to a World Cup or the European Championships, all their fans are gutted because the team loses. And if you're gutted, it means you're really disappointed, like to your heart and soul, just like your guts are ripped out of you because you're so disappointed, which is what happens to English soccer fans or football fans every 4 years. Well, actually every 2, because European Championships and 2 years later, World Cup. I think you get the meaning.
Is he saying that they always lose, so they always get gutted? Huh? Was that a little jab at the Brits?
Bloody hell, Mark, that's kind of mean. Well, there's also sayings you need to know when you're here. And if you hear somebody say bloody hell, it means like, dang it. Well, a little bit stronger than dang it. But, this is YouTube, so I got to be nice.
You don't have to be nice. It just means damn it, Mark.
So that's one saying you might want to know, bloody hell.
Or not Mark, Walter. Why did I say Mark? Is his name Mark Walter? I don't know. Anyways.
The thing is, if you joke around at football matches, the wrong football match, you do need to be careful because you don't want to end up at casualty. Now, this is a word that can be very different and really scare people if they do get sick or if they have to go to the hospital in different countries, because casualty here in the UK means the emergency room. Okay, whereas in the US, if there's a casualty, it means somebody died.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're here and you're like, oh, where'd my mom go? Oh, she's a casualty. She got hit by a car. You're like, oh, she died. Like, she's a casualty? Oh, no. They're like, no, she's at the emergency room. Okay, so that's kind of an important one to kind of know. And I think another thing you'll hear people talk about here is they'll say they're knackered. It just means you're really tired. So knackered here in the UK, it just means tired in the US.
I woke up knackered this morning before I had my coffee.
So, Bob's your uncle, my friend. That means, there you go, you pretty much have it all. So you didn't think those were all
Bob's your uncle, huh? There you have it. That's an interesting one that doesn't even make any sense.
All the words I should mention when it comes to differences between the US and the UK. Here's some other ones. So if they tell you to go to the till when you're at a store, that's here in the UK, that's a cash register in the US, all right?
Okay,
And probably the
okay.
most important word you might get caught up on if someone says, I need a cuppa. A cuppa here, it's not a copper. A cuppa is a cup of tea. What are the things you have to have when you're here? So never pass up a cuppa when you're here in England.
Okay.
Another thing you don't want to pass up on is going to a chippy. And when we say chippy in the US, some people, that means people are a little bit mean. They're like a little chippy, a little short with people, like mean with people.
Okay,
But here, a
okay.
chippy is just a fish and chip shop. The best place to get fish and chips. I know you get it at pubs here, but it's like next level when you go to the chippy, all right? Now, when you go to
Nice.
the chippy, you want to be careful you don't spill anything on your jumper. Okay, a jumper here in the UK is a sweater, a long sleeve shirt you put on,
Okay.
maybe a sweatshirt or a sweater, you have that. Whereas in the US, if you say there's a jumper, that means someone that's gonna jump and commit suicide. So you wanna be careful with that one. Now, one of the fun ones you might wanna know about is bum. And a bum here in England is your butt, your backside,
We know that. I call it a bum sometimes.
right? But a bum in the US is a person that kind of lives on the streets, okay, maybe begs for money. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a
yeah,
little bit different connotation that's out there. But I think of all the English, like UK words that people might know in the US, I think bum is the one that people know the best. Now, if you're a traveler coming to the UK and you've got little kids, like babies, and you need to get a cot is
A cot is like it's like a fold out sleeping mattress thing, right?
a crib in the US, okay?
Oh, okay.
And then so you say, hey, do you have a cot for my little one? And so they can get a crib for you. For my English and Scottish friends that are heading to the US, cribs are more in someone's house. So if you're
Yeah.
going to go to a hotel, ask them if they have a pack and play. That's kind of the newer version of a cot in the US. Now, one thing you want
A pack and play is just a portable. It's not really. Yeah, I mean, when you're traveling, you use a pack and play as a crib. But like a pack and play is just also like, you put your baby in there to play. They have the crib to sleep in, and then, say you're doing dishes and you can't, keep an eye on your baby or whatever, you put them in the pack and play to confine them. But it's portable. You can fold it up, take it with you. So then when you're traveling, it would double as a crib.
to be really careful with is the word homely. Because if you go to someone's house in the US, you
Homely means you look homeless. You look a little bit rugged, wore down. You're wearing like dingy, nasty clothes, and yeah. Over there, homely, I think means like this just is cozy, you know, uh, comfortable. I feel at home here, I think.
say, oh, it's very homely, you mean it's ugly. Like if you say someone's
Yeah,
homely, you're like,
ugly.
ooh, they're that ugly? Oh my goodness. Whereas here in the UK, if you say homely, it means it's cozy.
Yep.
Now, I'm just outside of Liverpool, and I think this is an important word to know, and that is silverware. Now, silverware in the UK is talking about the trophies you win as a team,
Oh.
whereas silverware in the US is cutlery. It's your forks and knives you eat
Yep.
with. So if you ask, do you have any silverware? Like, yeah, I got a fork and knife. What does that have to do with football? So just know there's a little different one there. And let's say you have a knife and you accidentally cut yourself. Well, in the US, you put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
Here, they call it a plaster. Whereas in the US, plaster is more of a building material we talk about than anything else. So people wouldn't understand that.
Yeah, building material. He means kind of like drywall mud, but not necessarily. It's like that goopy stuff that you scrape on your walls. You spread it out well, it's real flat, and then it dries real hard, and then that's your wall surface.
Band-Aid is what we call it in the US. Now, I'm getting kind of hungry because this video is getting kind of long. And one of the things I love to get when I'm here is a jacket potato. And if you're not sure what a jacket potato
Baked
is, it kind of
potato?
makes sense when you hear this from my American friends. A jacket potato is just a skin-on baked potato. All right,
Okay,
so you
yeah,
have
yeah.
that one there. And some of the words here, it's not necessarily that they use a different word. They might pronounce it differently. Like, we've got a garage in the US.
And over there, it's a garage.
But it's the garage here in the UK. But I think my personal favorite, the first
He forgot one. Here, we call our we have like our yard, like I think more specifically the backyard, right? Or the lawn. And over there, they call it a garden. Over here, our garden is just literally a garden where you would grow your vegetables, or maybe it's a flower garden where you got your petunias and tulips and rose bushes or whatever.
First one, the ones that should always be said by everyone when they go to other countries, is aluminum. So in the U.S., it's aluminum. You have that aluminum can, your Coke
Aluminium.
comes in. Well, here it's aluminium.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about that. Aluminium, say it a few times and you can't unsay it. It blows your mind, all right? So what are some other words that don't quite pass the we both speak English test? Let us know in the comments.
Well, mate means friend or pal or buddy or, just good day, mate, So I think he glossed over that one as well. But yeah, this is a good video. That was actually really fun. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I encourage you to hit subscribe, hit that notification bell if you enjoy this kind of stuff. I do a lot of reactions on just like dumb Americans or just like learning about other countries, a ton of Netherlands reactions, but I also do British, UK, Denmark, Norway, etc., right? So anyways, that was awesome. You guys have a super fun, awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye.